This month, we finally got to watching Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, which Jacob watched a couple months ago when it came out, and then really wanted me to watch it, and I refused for many moons. But now I can make content off of it, so I watched it.
I don't think I said you should watch it. I said it was nowhere near as bad as I thought it would be. It was surprisingly not as shitty as I expected, I think were my words.
I think that's a tacit endorsement.
Because the marketing made it look really, really, really bad.
That's fun.
I was sitting in a bar with multiple TVs, so I couldn't hear it, but I looked up and I was like, what is that? It looks awful. And it was the commercial for this movie, and I was like, oh my gosh. I was sitting at the bar laughing because it looked awful.
I didn't see any marketing for this. I didn't know what happened until it was already on VOD. So it came out last year in 2021. It's written and directed by Johannes Roberts. It is an adaptation of the first two games, of which I have played neither. It is a reboot of the film franchise, and is technically the seventh overall film. It stars a bunch of TV actors. No offense, guys. Yeah, this was a thing. It's a pretty, from what I know of the first two games, it's a pretty straightforward adaptation, kind of just smushing them together. But
can you find the deets on the shoestring budget?
Hold on.
Because that'll be really important, because you can tell while watching it that it was made
not
for
a shoestring.
It was made for about $5.
$25 million production budget. Unacceptable for that amount of money. Every A24 movie is made for half of that, and they look 10 times as good. That is actually asinine. It might have been a lot of the actors' pay. Because
that's what I was wondering.
For being mostly like TV level actors, they're fairly high caliber for TV actors. So that, and it was also delayed because of COVID, and I'm sure that fucked production over a lot.
So upon rewatch, I realized that some of the scares were actually decent. Spencer is not a horror fan at all, so he started squealing immediately, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that this was actually, there was a scare here. I remembered it not being scary at all, but there's about 3 good scares.
I would agree. It was about 3 decent ones. Everything else was just, I don't know.
Everything else was just the horror of terrible effects.
Mostly, yeah. There's a handful of the practical makeup work that's solid, I guess, and then a lot of it is really, really bad. The consistency between the infected people, whatever you want to call them, is really bad. Like, sometimes they just look like they're really translucent. Sometimes they look decaying. Sometimes they're bloated and blue or purple. It's so inconsistent. It really bothers me. Like, they look like crap. The general vibe that I had while watching this, and I was trying to describe it when we were watching it, is I could feel every single like buildup coming. And because I'm a bitch, it doesn't matter if I know it's coming. I still like jump. But the way that the camera was moving, especially in the first like third of the movie, is so, guys, look, the camera's slowly moving. There's going to be a scare right there. It's like, this is so low bar, and it's in line with the director's other works. He's basically only made C tier horror schlock. So,
however, and this isn't the first time I've said it, it's better than most of the other Resident Evil series.
I very much so disagree. Those ones are bad, but they're bad, not bad good, but like there's a narrative, I guess.
I don't think so.
Sometimes the action is fine. This is just so, it felt like it was edited in Windows Movie Maker. Like, I'm all for doing stuff as DIY as you can, but this felt like this was produced by 10 people and not in a good way. Like, it felt like if this was on YouTube, this would be like a god tier fan film. But for an actual studio production, this is unacceptably bad. And I'm disappointed to say that it has made about $40 million. So it has probably made back its full production budget and marketing budget. We're not going to get a sequel because Resident Evil's license has moved over to Netflix, but like, why do people do this? Stop watching shitty movies and paying people money because you make more of them. Stop it.
So back to my original point, I think this story makes more sense than several of the other Resident Evil movies. It's not just run away from monsters, shoot monsters, figure out how to kill monsters in a big way. It's like there's two narratives that closely follow the first two video games. And yeah, it's kind of cheating doing the same thing as what the video games did, but it's not just monster killer zombie edition. Even though the original series was more like Evil Dead demon killer, but whatever.
I don't know. There's something about it that feels like the original series was very clearly just, we're using the name to make movies so the director could direct his wife into doing hot action sequences, which, I mean, screw you, but also you do you, buddy. I get it. But like, this feels, for having such a high dedication to accuracy, massive quotations, it feels really like disingenuous. It feels like it was not made intentionally bad, but like they didn't expect anyone to care if it was bad. I'm not totally sure where I'm going with this. I don't know. It gives me a weird feeling in my gut.
I'm just glad it was back to zombies.
There were a handful of positives, which I will give it.
Well, I didn't expect a handful. I expected one or two.
I got like three.
Wow.
There were three actors maybe four, who, whilst their performances were bad, I liked seeing them because they make me happy. There was the lead woman. I don't remember her name. Bonk. There was the police chief, who is played by the same actor who plays Detective Bullock in Gotham. I love him.
And Monkey Man from Umbrella Academy.
Yes. And then I have never seen him in anything, but the actor that they cast for Leon was actually very good, I think. My base familiarity with Leon basically being he is kind of like a loser. He's not like this massive uber Chad protagonist. Like, he's kind of a fuck up, and I think that's why people like the character. And I think they nailed that like kind of goofy, like earnest fuck up energy. I don't know. It was fine to watch. Everyone else was the most generic writing I've seen on the planet. And then the bad guy was beyond horrible. Grows into some big fucking... in the middle of the movie, when it started going downhill, I was like, is this going to end with a kaiju battle? And then you looked at me and you're like,
yes.
And then it ends with like
yes.
and then it ends with like a small kaiju that gets destroyed by like a bazooka and like two pistol headshots to the eyeballs. I just...
And then that's basically the end of the movie.
Yeah, and then they walk epically out of a tunnel to a title card. Like, legitimately, is this like a... I don't know, man. It reeks of fan film energy. There's also this entirely fabricated backstory for the female protagonist, which is entirely different tonally than the rest of the movie. Her in the orphanage stuff was the creepiest part of the movie by a long shot. Like, the opening 15 minutes was like, I hate this, and it's bad and dumb. But I guess they tried something, and it just doesn't seem relevant to the rest of the movie until they magically need to contact the weird freak that lived in her basement to go to the basement. And it's like, that's it. I kind of understand the vague idea of what they wanted to do there, but it was shit. It was a complete waste of time. And I would rather see them all spraying and praying in dark rooms with the muzzle flash not matching the color of fire and their flashlights being turned off for no good reason. I would rather go to just the mansion sequences than anything else, because that could at least dull my migraine with gunshots, I guess.
I also kind of wish we had gotten Mr. X chasing them through part of it, because he's in Resident Evil 2, and it felt like a missing piece.
It felt like this thing had a lot of missing pieces, but also still had too much.
I wouldn't go that far. It definitely felt like it had been chopped too much.
It's kind of inevitable when you film bad stuff that looks like crap. You kind of have to, at least make the runtime brisk. That's all I got. I'm never going to watch this again. I wouldn't watch this drunk. I would watch the other movies drunk. If someone's like, hey, you want to get drunk and watch shitty Resident Evil movies, I will watch the other ones. This has no repeat value for me whatsoever.
So you're saying you will only watch the original series because bunk?
Not really.
And there's no bunk in this one?
I guess. I don't know. At least the first one was like fine. That's all I got, man. This thing was a slog. I spent a third of the movie staring at you going, why are you making me watch this? Another third of the movie trying to like put my own eyes out. And the other third, I just sat there dissociated because it was absolute stupidity.
Yeah.
I am yet disappointed yet again by another video game movie adaptation.
And we've only just begun.
Oh yeah. It's nonstop disappointment. It's nonstop disappointment.